All right, this is a quick overview of how to use lesson plan cards here that we've got here. So first thing we want to do whenever we're starting a lesson is make sure that we're starting with the standard. Hopefully that's an obvious thing, but gold standard, gold card. The next thing we would do here in Waukee is we would start out with probably just basing off the workshop model. And I would start out with some type of demonstration by the teacher. The I do in the workshop model, followed up with we do. And then lastly, usually, some type of independent practice. At a very basic level, this is the absolute simplest lesson plan we would have. We'd know what our standard is, we'd demonstrate it, we'd have students try it out as well, and then they would work independently. Now, once in a while, there are lots of other elements that should always come into play, but they don't always happen every time. For example, a great way to increase the effectiveness of your instruction is to go ahead and add some reflection in. So as I look in my lesson now, starting off with that standard, the end of class period, maybe we add a little bit of reflection with a question or some other discussion with students. Sometimes that reflection doesn't work very well at the end, so perhaps it's more appropriate to start your day with it. That's still fine. I'm using the workshop model and I've added some reflection in to be a little bit more effective. Now, there are lots of other areas that we can go into. For example, am I using any type of formative assessment? Am I having any type of fun? Is there a place where students can see some application out of it? Make some room. Do students know what the relevance of their day is, of the learning target they're using? Is there a moment where I have built in for intervention? Is there a way that I'm going to be able to work with students in this process here? Do I have any classroom routines that I can use? What's going to help if a student's absent or stuck? How do they independently navigate that? Looking at readiness, do students have a sense of the skills that they need to start, and do you know? How did you check that? Students are naturally social. How are you tapping into that social aspect of their learning? Do you have any kind of movement, or are students sitting the whole day? Go through these last few here. At a secondary level, are they using those CCRS skills, or maybe this is the Stephen Covey 7 Habits type stuff? Are there skills other than just those academic skills we wanted to teach? The purpose. Have you been explicit with students about what you want them to learn today, or are you purposefully not telling them? Maybe they're discovering that. And then is there an opportunity to provide them with some feedback? Now, this is not by any means everything that someone has to have, but over the course of several weeks or maybe an entire unit, looking at all these and saying, have I touched any of those at some point or another? So to give you an example here, I'm moving back in, and again, I have my standard and I have some reflection. Maybe I decide, you know what, at the start of class, we're going to do, I'm going to demonstrate it. And then after that, I want students to do some discussion and reflecting on it. And we're going to do that by moving around the room. It's totally fine. Maybe at the end of the day, you want to make sure that in that guided practice, I have some kind of fun aspect that they like doing. Maybe it's a game or a review game. Again, this isn't meant to be a perfect lesson, but the idea here is that are you using all of these components in your day? So another example here, within that workshop model, the I do, we do, and then you do, maybe this isn't the order you really want to use. So I'm going to scratch this out now. We're going to start off with a standard for this lesson. I'm going to do a you do activity. Now, why would I do that? By having students try a problem out that maybe I don't know if they're ready or not, I can check their readiness, and I can use that readiness as a formative assessment, and that's going to inform what happens next. Now, if students start there, and I find out that I've got a group of students off of that formative assessment that need some help, then maybe I'm going to have two different groups going. I'll have one group that is needing some help from me that I can provide some feedback to, and then maybe there's another group of students at the same time that's working socially, that's working with a peer on some type of application problem. So the purpose of these cards is not meant to be you must do the same thing every time, but it's how can you mix that up and create some different scenarios. So I'll take a couple of these out. So within that same concept of I started with a you do this time, perhaps I would give class feedback after doing that problem. They get some feedback, and then maybe after that feedback is a time that I can use to do some intervention work while other students are working independently. So again, there are a lot of different options here. I think there's even a blank card that if you have something else that you think you would add, but the goal being we always start with a standard. We're going to make sure that within that workshop model that I've got all of those components. I have some excellent exemplar or good modeling that I do, that students get a chance to try that with some practice that doesn't count towards a assessment necessarily, but they get feedback from you, and then finally that independent level practice where students can work on their own. So let me know what you think if you have questions or want to change things, and good luck.